Her voice cracked like glass when she said it. Forget intimacy, I've been touched enough. The words hung in the air, cold and final, slicing through the dim light of our bedroom. I remember the way she wouldn't look at me, her eyes fixed on the floor, her hands trembling as if the sentence had drained all the warmth from her body. For a moment I couldn't breathe. The air felt heavier, as though the walls themselves were closing in, absorbing the echo of what she'd just said. Touched enough. What did that mean? That night I lay beside her, my mind spinning. She turned away, pretending to sleep, but I could feel the tension in her shoulders, the careful way she controlled her breathing. The faint smell of a different cologne, not mine, clung to her skin. I tried to tell myself I was imagining it. I wanted to believe I was. But when you've loved someone long enough, you recognize even the smallest change, the hesitation in a kiss, the delayed response, the new distance in their voice. I thought of the last few months, how she'd started taking evening walks alone, claiming she needed space, how her phone was suddenly face down on the table, her messages silenced, how her laughter, once effortless, now sounded rehearsed. I told myself she was stressed, that maybe I hadn't been attentive enough, that maybe she just needed time. But that sentence, "I've been touched enough," felt like a confession wrapped in denial. The next morning, she acted as if nothing had happened. She made coffee, humming softly, the same tune she always did when she was hiding something. "Did you sleep okay?" she asked. I nodded, though the lie felt sour in my mouth. "You?" She smiled. "Yeah, better than usual." She wouldn't meet my eyes. When she left for work, I sat in silence, staring at her empty cup. A faint lipstick stain marked the rim, coral pink, the shade she never used to wear. I ran my thumb over it, the waxy residue smearing slightly like a fading memory. That was when I knew. Something was happening. Something I wasn't supposed to see. That evening, she texted that she'd be home late. Another meeting. I waited. At 9 p.m. she still hadn't returned. I called her office. The receptionist told me she'd left at 6. My chest tightened. I grabbed my jacket and keys, my pulse pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I didn't have a plan, just instinct. I drove past her usual route, down streets I hadn't been to in years, until I saw her car parked behind a small cafe, tucked between two buildings like it was hiding. The lights inside were dim, the kind of soft amber glow meant for whispers and secrets. I stepped closer, careful not to make a sound, and through the rain-speckled window I saw her. My wife. And across from her, a man I didn't recognize. They weren't touching. Not yet. But the way she leaned forward, the way he brushed a strand of hair from her face, it was more intimate than any kiss. The kind of closeness that builds slowly, quietly, until it becomes impossible to ignore. I wanted to burst in, to demand answers. But I didn't. I just watched. Watched the woman I thought I knew share her softest smile with someone else. When she came home that night, I pretended to be asleep. She slipped into bed, careful not to disturb me. But I could feel the cold draft of guilt settle between us. Her breathing slowed, then steadied. And in that darkness I realized something painful. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was scared. Scared that maybe she wasn't mine anymore. Days passed in a blur of silence. I avoided confrontation, hoping she'd come clean. But she didn't. She laughed at my jokes, kissed my cheek before leaving, cooked my favorite meals. All perfectly rehearsed gestures of a life built on routine lies. It wasn't until I found her phone buzzing on the counter that everything cracked open. A message from R. "Miss you already. Last night felt right." My heart dropped. I opened the chat, each line slicing deeper. The photos, the secret plans, the months of deception. And then my wife's reply. "He suspects something." I told him I need space. I read it over and over, feeling my body go numb. The room spun. The walls blurred. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. When she walked in and saw me holding the phone, her face drained of color. "Where did you? Who is he?" I interrupted, my voice low, shaking. She didn't answer. Tears welled up in her eyes, but I couldn't tell if they were for me or for the loss of her secret. "Tell me," I said again, my voice breaking. She whispered, "It's not what you think." But lies always start that way. The argument that followed wasn't loud, it was quiet, controlled, filled with the kind of words that hurt more than shouting ever could. I felt empty, she said, sobbing. You stopped noticing me. You were here but not here. I wanted to tell her that I'd noticed everything. Every shift in her tone, every sigh, every night she turned her back. But I couldn't speak. My throat burned with unsaid words. When she reached for me, I stepped back. Her touch felt foreign, like the memory of something long dead. I still love you, she said. And for a fleeting second, I almost believed her. That night I went for a drive. Rain poured hard against the windshield, the rhythmic tapping almost drowning out the sound of my thoughts. I ended up back at that cafe, the one where I'd seen them. It was closed now. Empty. But in my mind I could still see them sitting there, laughing softly, the candlelight flickering between them. That image burned itself into me. I realized then that betrayal doesn't always come with violence or shouting. Sometimes it comes quietly, wrapped in gentle words and familiar smiles. Sometimes it hides in the spaces between what's said and what's felt. When I returned home, she was waiting. Her eyes were swollen from crying. I ended it, she whispered. With him. It's over. But something in her tone told me it wasn't that simple. Affairs don't end with a sentence. They linger in memories, in guilt, in silence. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. We didn't touch. We didn't cry. We just sat there, two strangers bound by a history neither of us knew how to undo. Weeks later, she tried to rebuild what was broken. She deleted numbers, avoided certain streets, spoke softly like she was afraid of breaking me again. But I couldn't forget what I saw. Every time she said, I love you, I heard that other man's name hiding behind her words. Every time she reached for my hand, I felt the ghost of another touch. And sometimes, when the nights grew too quiet, her words from that first evening would echo again. Forget intimacy, I've been touched enough. Only now I understood. She wasn't talking about exhaustion. She was talking about guilt. About the kind of touch that stains you. And though I still loved her, I finally accepted what I had seen. Something no vow, no apology could ever erase. Because once you witness the truth, love doesn't die instantly. It just fades, slowly, painfully, until what's left is nothing but the memory of what used to be.